Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're taking that stack of strategic planning documents you shared with us, and we're moving past the whiteboard phase. We're getting into the trenches.
Well, into execution.
Exactly. Our mission is to really understand that transition from strategy to the actual implementation side of things in pharmaceutical digital transformation.
Yeah. And this is, it's often the most complex phase. Planning is one thing, it's comfortable. But execution, integrating these cutting-edge technologies into an industry really defined by patient safety, stringent global regulation. That's the real test.
We're definitely not just talking about, like, updating some spreadsheet program here. This is a massive balancing act. The pharma sector is, well, it's adopting the Industry 4.0 framework. Things like cyber-physical systems, intelligent automation, IoT. But the whole effort, it has to enhance, not compromise, that core mission, delivering safe, effective treatments.
That's the absolute critical constraint. And if you look at the financials attached to these transformation challenges that were identified in the sources, the commitment is clearly real. We're talking about a total investment of approximately, $15.0 million across these areas?
$15 million, that's substantial. But I guess the projected reward is what really makes this so compelling, right?
Exactly. The average expected return on investment, the RI, for this kind of integrated high-tech approach, it clocks in at a whopping 388.6%.
Wow.
And that's over a remarkably quick average implementation timeline, just under 19.3 months.
That kind of ROI, it really shows these aren't just optional upgrades. These are strategic necessities almost.
Competitive necessities, absolutely.
Okay, so let's try and unpack the complexity here, starting, I guess, with the foundation. Because in pharma, if that base architectural layer isn't compliant, isn't robust, well, the whole innovation structure just collapses later on, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
Implementation, it demands a layered approach, one that guarantees data integrity at every single level. You're literally building from the physical systems, think instrumentation on the manufacturing floor,
Yeah.
all the way up to enterprise-level integration, your ERP systems, for example.
And part of that physical layer I saw mention is something called process analytical technology, or PAY. That sounds like some pretty heavy jargon.
It is a bit jargony, but the concept's actually straightforward and crucial. PAYT is basically quality control, but done on the fly.
On the fly.
Yeah, instead of taking a sample out of, say, a bioreactor, testing it hours later, PAY uses sensors and analytical tools inside the process itself to measure chemical, physical attributes in real time.
Ah, okay.
So this foundational integration ensures that your systems, from the sensor right up to the enterprise database, are all coordinated, guarantees accuracy, guarantees auditability.
Which brings us, like, immediately to the non-negotiables. Regulation. Even something that sounds like a basic efficiency move, maybe shifting infrastructure to cloud computing, that instantly becomes this intense regulatory hurdle.
Oh, absolutely. What's really challenging is that even basic infrastructure is governed by these global rules demanding rigorous control over electronic data. You've got to comply with the U.S. FDA's 21 CFR Part 11.
Right, the electronic records and signatures one.
Exactly. And the European Union's EU Annex 11 for computerized systems. These aren't just, IT rules. They're governance mandates.
So, okay, if I move my manufacturing data to the cloud, what does that specifically mean when an auditor shows up?
It means every single digital workflow has got to be auditable, traceable, and secure, just as if it were still on paper in some locked filing cabinet. And critically, cloud implementations need comprehensive governance that addresses data sovereignty.
Data sovereignty. That's not just security, is it? It's more about where the data physically is.
Precisely. It's about the geographic location of your data and the legal jurisdiction that governs it. In a big multinational pharma company, knowing where your critical patient data or your batch data actually lives, that's absolutely non-negotiable for compliance.
That extra layer must really slow things down, even a simple digital deployment.
Certainly adds complexity and time, yes. And underpinning all of this complexity is that principle you flagged for the source material, quality by design, or QBD.
QBB, right.
It really acts as this sort of philosophical North Star for the entire implementation process.
We hear QBD thrown around constantly. But if we break it down, what is a critical quality attribute that needs to be designed in? What does that actually mean?
It means quality isn't something you just check for at the end of the line. It's engineered into the system right from the very start. So a critical quality attribute, it might be the required purity level of the final drug product, or, say, the necessary stability of a vaccine during shipping. QBD demands that every system you deploy, from an IoT sensor to an AI algorithm, has to prove its ability to sustain those attributes.
That sounds like it requires a ton of collaboration.
Intense collaboration between your technical teams, your quality assurance people, your regulatory specialists, all through the design and deployment. You just cannot operate in silos here.
So successful implementation needs a really structured methodology, something that respects all this regulatory complexity, but still allows for, I guess, the agility you need to pull off this massive transformation.
Absolutely. You need a systematic approach. Often we see something like a 24-month timeline being used to stagger the deployment, manage the risk, and crucially, ensure operational continuity. You can't just switch everything off and on again.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Let's dive into those 7 specific high-value emerging technology challenges you mentioned. We need to see how organizations are actually applying this $15 million budget across people, process, and technology to get that kind of staggering ROI you talked about.
Right. Let's start with what we can call Challenge Group A, Data and Discovery. This group, it directly impacts R&D, which is a big reason why the financial returns here are so high.
First up, advanced analytics and big data management. This sounds very much like a process overhaul.
It is, fundamentally. The process dimension here, it's all about transforming raw data into actual insights you can use for decision-making. We're talking about automating complex reporting for huge data sets.
Like clinical trial data.
Exactly. Analyzing an entire clinical trial in real time, or maybe optimizing manufacturing flows using predictive analytics. The ROI here is quantified at 420%.
420%.
And that investment enables things like a 35% reduction in drug development time and a really significant 45% improvement in clinical trial success rates. Those are direct time-to-market advantages, huge competitive edge.
And building right on top of that data foundation, we've got artificial intelligence and machine learning integration, AML. This looks like a major investment area. The budget example you pulled was around $2.5 million just for this challenge. Why is it so costly?
Well, it's primarily down to the people dimension and also the need for new governance processes.
Okay.
You need highly specialized, often highly paid expertise, data scientists, AI engineers, and crucially, regulatory AI specialists, people who understand both the tech and the compliance landscape.
And the process side.
On the process side, you're shifting. You're going from deterministic systems, if X happens, then Y results, to probabilistic AML. That needs entirely new governance frameworks, things like algorithm validation, bias detection.
Hang on, bias detection, why is that so critical in a pharma context?
Well, think about it. If your AI model, which might be used to, say, select patient populations for clinical trials, if that model was trained on a data set that's too narrow demographically,
I see.
that inherent bias could skew the trial results. It could even lead to treatments that are ineffective or maybe even unsafe for underrepresented populations. It's a major ethical and regulatory necessity to assure the AI is fair and, importantly, interpretable.
Yeah.
You need to understand why it's making the recommendations it is.
That complexity, though, it seems to lead to a massive payoff. The ROI was quantified at, what, 450%?
It is huge, yes, 450%. This kind of investment, it enables potentially an 18 to 24-month reduction in time to market for new drugs.
Wow.
And around a 40% reduction in clinical trial costs. The industry really views AML as the engine for future drug discovery.
Okay, let's pivot then to challenge Group B manufacturing and supply chain transformation. Now, this group holds the highest single ROI figure we've seen, and it seems focused on risk mitigation, digital twin technology implementation.
The digital twin. Yes, it's a true marvel of technology. You've got sophisticated simulation software paired with real-time data streams, maybe even augmented or virtual reality interfaces for interaction.
So it's a virtual copy of the real process.
Essentially, yes. And the process transformation it enables is this incredible predictive simulation capability. That's just invaluable in a highly regulated environment.
A 520% ROI, though. It almost sounds like fantasy. What's the single biggest implementation hurdle or maybe the risk that this technology mitigates so effectively to drive that number so high?
The biggest risk it mitigates is catastrophic physical error during process changes and ensuring compliance before you touch the actual production line. The main hurdle is definitely the complexity of modeling the physical processes accurately enough in the virtual world.
Okay.
But the payoff comes from avoiding costly downtime, avoiding batch failures, avoiding compliance issues. You can test process changes, optimization strategies like, say, tweaking a flow rate in a reactor virtually without disrupting live, validated manufacturing operations.
That makes sense.
And that massive ROI Enables things like a 30% reduction in process development time, 25% improvement in manufacturing efficiency. That's why you see these budget projections around $3.0 million for this very specialized area.
So if the digital twin is the simulation, then the Internet of Things, or IoT implementation, that must be the eyes and ears feeding it the real-time data from the plant floor, right?
Exactly right. IoT is absolutely fundamental for that continuous monitoring and also for things like predictive maintenance, reducing costly equipment failures before they happen.
And in the supply chain.
A crucial application there is enhanced cold chain management. So continuous tracking of temperature, humidity, maybe shock during transport for sensitive biologics or vaccines. If a therapeutic breaches a critical temperature threshold, you know instantly, not days later.
That immediate response capability must be key for quality.
It's critical. With an ROI of around 280%, you start to realize benefits, like a 25% reduction in equipment maintenance costs, and crucially, a 40% faster response time to quality deviations. The budget allocation there is roughly $1.8 million based on the sources.
Okay, shifting from monitoring conditions to securing the actual product itself. Blockchain technology adoption. How does this tech actually transform the supply chain process?
Blockchain transforms that process mainly through two things. Smart contracts, which can automate parts of the transaction, and creating these immutable data records, sometimes called data provenance.
Data provenance. What does that term actually mean in practical terms for the listener? What does it deliver?
It delivers an unchangeable, verifiable record of who handled the product, where, and when. Basically, it ensures product authenticity and traceability right through the supply chain.
So it makes counterfeiting harder.
Much harder. Because the data is distributed across many computers and cryptographically secured, it's incredibly difficult for bad actors to inject counterfeit products or tamper with records. This security focus delivers a very solid 320% ROI.
And the benefits.
Things like a potential 75% improvement in the effectiveness of product recalls, because you know exactly where batches went, and maybe a 90% reduction in counterfeit product infiltration. That's a major risk mitigation investment, budgeted around $2.2 million.
That really links the external security needs of blockchain back to internal needs for efficiency and safety. Okay, let's move quickly into the last group, Challenge Group C, operational efficiency. We should definitely talk about the workhorse technology here. Robotic process automation, or RPA deployment.
RPA.
Yeah.
Yes, this is all about automating those repetitive, high-volume tasks that are often still manual, but crucially highly regulated.
Like what kind of tasks?
Think form processing, data entry for regulatory submissions, generating routine reports for quality control or regulatory bodies. The technology itself is relatively mature now, but the people dimension here is quite interesting.
Tell me more about that people cost. Because the sources noted that up to 75% of the, say, $1.2 million budget for RPA actually goes towards personnel and consulting fees. Why is the human side so expensive when the whole point is automation?
It's the cost of that highly specialized expertise you need. You need people who can accurately map these complex regulated processes first. Then you need developers who can build the RPA script, but also, crucially, QA and validation experts who can audit the automation logic. They have to ensure the RPA script itself meets all the quality assurance and regulatory standards.
So you can't just, install a bot to fill out FDA forms and walk away.
Absolutely not. You need expert consultants, often, who can guarantee that the robot is compliant, fully auditable, and doesn't introduce any new risks into your validated processes.
So the major investment isn't really the software license itself. It's that deep, specialized knowledge of regulatory workflow design and validation.
Exactly. But the returns, they can be quite immediate. A 380% ROI, you get maybe a 60% reduction in manual processing time for those tasks. And because the processes are automated and consistent, you might see 50% faster regulatory submission processing overall, getting critical paperwork filed and approved in potentially half the time.
Okay, and finally, circling back to cloud computing and data migration, we talked about its foundational role and the regulatory necessity, but it also delivers significant measurable operational efficiency gains on its own right.
Yes, absolutely. While it certainly enables many of the other 6 challenges we discuss, its own expected ROI is pegged at around 350%.
And where does that come from?
Directly from things like a potential 40% reduction in IT infrastructure costs,
Right.
shifting from heavy capital expenditure on servers to more flexible operational expenditure on cloud services.
Yeah.
And also a massive, potentially 80% faster disaster recovery capability.
Business continuity.
Exactly. That inherent stability, scalability, and the direct cost savings. They really form a baseline requirement for pretty much everything else we've discussed today. This foundational challenge It had an estimated budget of around $1.5 million.
So after reviewing all 7 of these critical technology challenges, I mean, from AI and discovery all the way to RPA for efficiency, it seems abundantly clear this $15 million transformation isn't a quick fix. It's a systematic, expertise-intensive overhaul, but it's clearly designed for very high reward.
It truly is. The deployment timeline, as we said, is often measured in years, maybe that 24-month framework, not months. That's needed to manage the sheer complexity and ensure operational continuity. And as we saw with RPA, personnel and consulting costs often dominate the budget, which really demonstrates that the human element, the regulatory expertise, those are actually the most valuable components in this digital shift.
But the rewards seem undeniable. That average figure you mentioned, 388.6% ROI. It proves this substantial investment isn't just about cutting costs here and there. It's about fundamentally transforming the speed, the quality, and the reliability of the entire organization.
And, if we connect this all back to the bigger picture, the central dilemma always remains. How does this very high-tech, potentially highly profitable digital transformation ensure that the organization maintains its absolute highest standards of quality, safety, and regulatory compliance?
Right.
The ultimate goal has to be leveraging things like AI and digital twins to deliver better treatments faster and more safely to patients worldwide. This constant need to balance massive technological advancement with that uncompromising patient welfare, that's the fundamental complex balancing act. It's inherent in every single step of this $15 million transformation roadmap we've just walked through.